Are you ready to rumble? Welcome to this week's episode of Re-AWAKEN My Creative Spark with your host, Mio Biskin. So, as per usual, the first minute here, I'm just trying to fire things up and make sure this is all gonna work. I hope it does. So bear with me for a moment. It looks like things are working. Let's see what happens here. So, all right, looks like it's working. Say hi to me in the chat box whenever you get in here, whenever you get live. Last week was an absolute corker of a session. This week, I really want to keep it within the 1 hour time frame. Hey, Bernadette, she's here. Woohoo! So is Naria. Hey, Naria, welcome. Good to have you both here already. Excellent. Yay, Angelique's here. Yes. So it was a pretty chocker session last week. We went, overtime. So this week, I might fly through some stuff because this week is another really amazing bumper session. It's going to be action-packed. So I'm going to go straight into the presentation so we can just get right into this and so I can get through as much as possible so that so this just all runs really smoothly. So here we are again. So welcome to the Re-AWAKEN My Creative Spark online group coaching session. So this is week 4 of 5. This is going to be about confidence, self-belief, and a couple of common myths I'm going to smash. Thank you for making time to be here. Thank you once again for sending through your really thoughtful, insightful questions. I know this week, answering questions about inner critic and self-belief and what might be holding you back and, the feeling of not achieving your vision or your goal or whatever, they can be really tough questions. And the responses I got were really honest, heartfelt, great answers. And as I put those together, some patterns definitely emerged from that feedback. So once again, thank you so much for taking time to do that. It's really, really helpful. So as per the other sessions, 100% participation for the win. So some of you have already jumped into the chat box, which is awesome, to say hi. As people are coming on board, please just jump in there and say hi to your fellow reawakened creatives here, and also just let me know that you're here so that I know who to give a shout out to or how to customize any of the content. All right, so the review of last week's task, which was your daily practice. So I would love to hear from you in the chat box. How did you go this week with your daily practice? So lots of you made a really great commitment last week to do your daily practice. So just share with me how you went. And later on, I'm going to show you my weekly card thing. Actually, I might do that now. No, I don't think I will because I don't want to mess with this presentation. This awesome, beautiful presentation. Okay, so I hope you all went well. If you did, give yourself a massive high five. Okay, yeah, write your questions in the chat box as they come up and I'll answer them as we go or I'll answer them at the end. I still haven't updated this week 2 worksheet. So this is actually week 4. So hopefully by now you've downloaded it, printed it, and you can fill it out as we go. I sent it out pretty late today because I got quite a few responses to my last email, which actually shifted quite a bit of the content. So that's another reason why answering those questions is so important because it really helps to guide the sessions. All right, so this is what's on the menu. I'm going to explain the nature of the mind, confidence, self-belief, going to do some myth busting, and then I'm going to give you some exercises and tips at the end to kind of really ingrain this information and this knowledge. And there's heaps to get through. So I'm going to fly through it. If you miss anything, please, just leave a comment in the chat box and I will get to it. All right, who the heck is Mio Biskin? That's me. All right, so why is confidence so important to the success of your creative practice? Everyone's creative practice. So I think this is pretty obvious to most people, but confidence is really absolutely core to a successful creative practice. So successful being whatever you want it to be, whether it's you creating in your studio or your bedroom or you exhibiting worldwide. Confidence is absolutely crucial to creating, because if you don't believe that you're good at doing it, if you don't believe that your stuff is any good or it's worthwhile or that you're worthwhile, then you're not going to create anything. Because being an artist can be a very challenging thing where you're putting yourself out there. Like when you create a piece of work, when I write a song, the first time I go to perform that song, I'm nervous. I'm worried because I'm putting myself on the line. And that's why I think artists are courageous and awesome people. So confidence is absolutely crucial to a prolific and exciting creative practice. So that's why we're going to get into it in this session. So confidence, the word confidence, when it's broken down into its Latin root, which is con, and then fidere, that means with trust, or fidere actually means to trust. So it's basically, when you break it down, when you break self-confidence down, it really translates to self-trust. So how much you trust yourself to take an action, or how much you trust yourself and your opinion when you share that with others. I'm going to keep coming back to this because this is a really powerful phrase to remember in any moment when you're lacking confidence. When you can remember this is what the literal translation of confidence is, or self-confidence, then it can really help to conjure up that confidence when you need it. All right. One interesting thing about self-confidence is it's always about your relationship with yourself. It's not about your relationship with others. Self-confidence comes from living authentically and in integrity with your higher self. Self-confidence comes from a full self-acceptance of who you have been in the past and who you are in this moment. So I'll talk more about acceptance as well, self-acceptance. It's massive when it comes to confidence. Okay, so the other part of this that came up in the questions and just connected to self-confidence is self-worth. So only you decide your self-worth and your value. So no one else does that. So coming to a realization where you're saying a realization where you say, okay, I have value. I am worthy of love. My expression is valid. My art is my expression and it's my contribution. And so even if you follow that sentence backwards, it makes sense when it comes to your art. So your art is an expression and a contribution of who you are. Your expression is valid. It's always valid. Your expression is always valid. And you are worthy of love. You're worthy of respect, and you have value. You innately have value as a human being. I'll get a little bit more into that in a moment. This is a great quote. So no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. A really good friend of mine once told me this saying at the top of this page, which is, offense can never be given, it can only be taken. So this is about being empowered as to what you let through your guard and what you take on personally. So often if someone's being offensive, usually it's got more to do with them than it does you. So this quote is very, very powerful. I went looking for this quote because I had it in my mind, and I tracked it down. A person who doubts himself or herself is like a man who would enlist in the ranks of his enemies and bear arms against himself. He makes his failure certain by himself being the first person to be convinced of it. I think this is such a powerful quote, and it starts to cut down to the core of what your self-belief is and self-concept is, and how powerful it is and how powerful it must be. So there are a couple of things on this. When it comes to self-concept and self-belief, there's one person who matters most when it comes to the opinion of you, and that is you. So in this entire process that I'm talking about tonight, basically you need to become your own best friend. You need to become your own best ally, because the person you spend the most time with is yourself. The person who is probably most critical of everything you do is probably yourself. So through this process, what I really want to encourage you to do is find ways of befriending yourself. I know some of this language can sound a little bit naff or a bit, whatever, but it's just absolutely true. So that's why I talk about it. It really is about having self-respect, self-appreciation, self-acceptance. Really, a lot of the things that you pour all over your close friends and family, which is love and respect and empathy, it's so important to turn all of those great characteristics back on yourself, to nurture yourself. All right, cool. Okay, so when it comes to confidence and building confidence, there's something called the competence-confidence loop. And many of you may have heard this, but this is really quite intuitive once I explain a little bit of it. The way that this works when it comes to building confidence is you want to be good at something, right? So I'll use myself as an example. When I started learning guitar, in the beginning, I was terrible, just like every other guitarist and every other artist. To begin with, you're lame. So what happened was I learned a couple of skills. So I gained some competency. Like, I learned to play a really simple one-note song, a really simple melody. So once I learned that gave me a little bit of confidence. And then what happens when you grow in a little bit of confidence is that confidence feeds back to egg you on to learn more and try again and challenge yourself again. So, I learned another song or something a little bit more difficult. And then that competency gave me more confidence. And then I was like, oh, right, okay, maybe I can take on something a bit bigger. And then the loop continues and the competency grows. And every time the competency grows, confidence goes up. So you would know this if every artist knows this. It's one thing that's really cool about being an artist is you inherently know this is true, because if you have reached any level of skill in your creative practice, you recognize this. You know that, oh yeah, I remember I was really crap at that, and then I practiced a bit, and then I got better at it, and then that gave me a bit of a boost to try bigger things, or write a full song, or paint on a bigger canvas, or write a longer story, or whatever it was. So this is really crucial to remember, the competence-confidence loop. Okay, a quick word on where confidence comes from. So confidence comes from commitment and action. So confidence only comes once the thing is completed or you are taking some action towards it. So if you're in the process of doing it, you can grow in confidence as well, because you're having little wins along the way. So and a good illustration of this is skydiving. So I don't know if you've ever been skydiving, but when someone's standing at the edge of that platform, they're terrified and they have resistance and all this stuff. And sometimes they might say, I just need to, grow in confidence. I just need a bit more confidence and just need to be a bit more confident to actually jump out there. But that's not actually true. What's more true is that they actually need to get their commitment up. So commitment comes before confidence. This is really important. So if you want to write this down somewhere, I would encourage you to do that. Commitment comes before confidence. We all want the confidence ahead of the commitment. We all want to say, oh, okay, I just want the confidence to paint on this bigger canvas, or I just want the confidence to apply for this gallery. But the confidence comes afterwards. First must come commitment. So it's more important to work on commitment than it is to work on confidence, because the commitment is what will get you over the line. So once you commit and then you leap from the plane, then you get to experience this, the joy and the bliss of pushing through that fear. And that's, again, once you've gained a little bit of competency, you've now had the experience, then you grow in confidence, right? Okay, so this is the way that I think about it, because commitment always must come before confidence. Confidence is like getting the check from taking the action, and then you can cash it in on your next project. So you can't get the check before you take the action. You take the action, then you get the check, and then you can use that added bit of confidence to launch into a bigger, more exciting project. All right, so let's get into the nature of the mind. So here are just a couple of things to keep in mind as we do this. So hopefully as I'm doing this, you're going through the worksheet that I set up for you. So now, okay, we're on the second page, nature of the mind. So you might be wanting to fill this out. So the mind is always in motion. It's always on. It's always flowing, right? It's like a river. The mind will often err on the side of caution, safety, and security. So this is something to keep in mind whenever you're making decisions about something. Your mind, if there's a vacuum, your mind will generally fill it with negative images or emotions to keep you safe and on the side of security. Number 3 is the inner world of the mind creates the outer world. So this is a lot of what Creativity Mindset Master is really based on, is this concept that your inner world, your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, your attitude, your identity, your behaviors, your rituals, your daily practice, all of these things, your habits, they end up creating your outer world. So same thing with the thoughts that run through your mind. It will gather evidence to support existing beliefs. So this is really important. If you ever have a negative belief about yourself, your mind is like a really bad private investigator. And so if you have a negative existing belief about yourself, your mind will continue to gather evidence for that thing, even though you don't want it to. Okay, what you focus on expands. I'll explain that more in a minute. And it is only an opinion. It is not fact. So when we're having a negative thought, too often we take that on as a fact, like it's, I don't know, it's come down from some higher being or something, and it is the absolute cold, hard truth and fact. What your mind says to you 95% of the time is just an opinion. So when it's an opinion, it really empowers you to decide whether you want to believe it or not. Okay, so on your sheet, I think I actually have 8 things there, but in the presentation, there's only 6, so we'll move on. Okay, so I want to explain a little bit more about what you focus on expands. Okay, so this circle represents your experience. So whether it's your daily experience or maybe your weekly experience, but just generally things that are going on for you in the week. And what happens is all of these things happen. These are all little events that happen throughout your day. And here I've pictured all really positive things that have happened, or things have gone to plan and there's been no hitches. You know, you got the train on time, you know, you got to work or whatever, you're doing your painting and everything's just flowing and it's all fine. But sometimes, not sure if you saw that, in the corner there's no corners in a circle, but over there on the right-hand side, there's this little red dot, and it's something that our mind would call negative. So we're like, oh, I missed the train, or someone cut me off, or that person called me a so-and-so, or someone said this about my creative work. And then what the mind does, or sometimes it will focus all of its attention on that one thing. And then the focus zooms in and that thing seems bigger and bigger and it starts to take up more space. And the more time you focus on it, the bigger it gets. And it becomes this massive thing and it overshadows all of this other stuff. So in this example, maybe it was you had an exhibition and you presented your work to the world, and all those little blue dots were positive comments of people saying, oh, I really liked your painting, I really like that one, oh, I like, you know, the technique you're using or whatever. And there's one person who said, I don't really like that painting. And what does the mind focus on? The mind rushes to that one negative comment and plays it on repeat, on repeat, on repeat. So what you focus on expands. So this happens the other way as well. So it works if you focus on positive things. So, but if you focus on not being good enough and you think that nobody likes you, then your mind will find a ton of evidence for that everywhere because you're looking for it. You're telling the mind, this is something that, you know, I'm worried about. So it's the, you know, the dumb private investigator goes out there and finds all this supporting evidence. But if you look for evidence that people care and that you're capable of doing your art, that you're competent, that you can do a daily practice, then you'll start to find proof of that as well. Sometimes you have to look to find this stuff. Seek and you shall find. So that's one of the reasons that I asked you to celebrate as part of your daily practice, because what that daily practice card represents is absolute proof that you're capable of doing creative work on a consistent basis. And the reason that I get you to celebrate is to anchor that memory, that feeling of being competent and capable of doing whatever you set your mind to, basically. So the daily practice also feeds into that competence confidence loop, because every day you do it and you grow a little bit in confidence every single day. Okie dokie. So what does it all mean? So what happens in each situation is we apply meaning to each situation. So if you have 5 people and they all see a car crash or they all see a bank robbery and you ask them what happened, you probably get 5 different stories. There'll be common themes, but someone will say, oh, the blue car, yeah, drove off. And another person will say, yeah, the little red car did this. And there'll also be a meaning attached to it. So it'll be, you know, those bad people robbed that bank. But another person's meaning might be, oh, those poor people who robbed that bank, they must be so desperate. So it's really important to be aware of the consistent meaning that you apply to different situations. So that's just something to be really conscious of and aware of. What meaning are you attaching to a situation where someone says, I don't like that painting? Does that mean you're a terrible person? Does it mean you're lame at what you do? Or does it mean that person, maybe they don't get anything about art, or maybe whatever it might be? But it's very important to check in on what meaning you're attaching to different situations. Okay, so negative self-talk is not an objective evaluation of the situation. It is a negative evaluation of yourself. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so this moves to self-shaming. This is where this negative association with yourself comes into it. So if there's a situation that you would call bad, some people would say that's a bad situation, and other people would say, I'm a bad person for creating that situation, or I'm such an idiot, or whatever it might be. That's self-shaming and making yourself responsible for things that happen in the world, negative things that happen in the world. Or if you made a decision that just didn't turn out the way you wanted it, so you could either say that you made the wrong decision, or you could say, I'm wrong. There's something wrong with me. I couldn't make the right decision because I'm this or I'm not that. Like I'm stupid or I'm not smart enough or whatever it is. So it's really important to move away from self-shaming and just to objective statements. Just basically answering the question, what happened? Not who's responsible and who's a fool or anything like that. All right, cool. So here we're going to do a little visualization. So you can either look at this beautiful little image I've got there for you, or just close your eyes as I ask you to do this little visualization. So what in your life are you proud about right now? So I want you to go into the feeling of this, the emotion of this. What are you proud about in your life right now? So it might be your health, your children, your creative practice. You might be proud that you did all of your daily practice this week. You might be proud of a relationship, the way that you're handling a relationship at the moment. And you're really just proud of the way that you're handling it. And you're feeling competent, you're feeling confident. So just go to that memory or that situation and feel into that. And then tell me what that feels like. So in the chat box below, once you come out of this, just maybe let me know, how does that feel in your body? What happens to your breath when you go into that tiny visualization? That went for like 20 seconds. But something really profound happens physiologically to your body. Once you move into these visualizations and these moments where you connect with a really positive emotion, it starts to well up in you and you go to that place. So I would ask you to do the same for a moment where you felt loved. So take yourself to a moment where you know you were unquestionably loved. So it might be a moment you had with your parent, or it might be a partner, or it might be your child, and your child came up to you and said something really beautiful and it just really got you. And in that moment, you knew that you were loved. You felt totally accepted and loved. So being in that space of understanding that you can be loved, that you have been loved, that you're worthy of love. It's a very powerful place to go to when it comes to having confidence. Because in the line of any fear or any insecurity, if you can take yourself to a place of love, everything else melts away. Nothing else really matters, because that self-acceptance is so pervasive that you can almost accept anything that's happening. If you know that you are loved, that you have been loved, that you're worthy of love, it's very, very powerful. Okay, so now I want you to conjure up in your mind an occasion or a situation where you felt really confident. You felt really strong in yourself. You had a strong sense of self and you thought, I've got this. I can do this. I know I can do this. So it might have been during the week, during your daily practice, or it might have been a moment where maybe you were competing in some type of athletics race, or you were presenting something in front of a group and you just thought, you know what, I've got this. I've really got this. I feel totally confident. So just go to that moment. And then when you come out of that, just maybe write down what that feels like to you. What does that power feel like? And also please share it in the comments box. I would love to hear from you about that. Okie dokie. Thank you for doing that. Okay. So your mind is a little bit like a computer where if you ask it a question, it will give you an answer. It's like a chatterbox that seems to have an answer for absolutely everything. So what's really important is what kind of questions are you asking yourself? What kind of questions are you sending to your mind? And then what is it feeding back to you? So when it comes to confidence, you can ask it a question like, why do I lack confidence? Or why do I not have any confidence? And it'll tell you all sorts of things. It'll say, well, it's because you suck. You know, here's all the proof. You know, you feel shame about this thing and you hate yourself about this thing. And, you know, you did this thing and so said this to you. And that's why you're not confident. A better question to ask is, how could I be more confident? So this is an example question, but this goes for every part of your creative practice and every part of your life. So if you're asking yourself, you know, why do I overeat, or why do I never lose any weight? Your mind is going to throw all sorts of stuff at you. It's going to say, well, you eat too many biscuits at night and you do this and you do that. But if you say, how can I become fit and strong and lean in my body? It's going to start giving you other types of answers that are really supportive. It's going to say, okay, well, this is what you need to do. You need to go to the gym. You need to eat more fruit and vegetables, blah, 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 blah. So it's really important what questions you are asking yourself. And I hear this all the time. People say, why don't people like me? Or why doesn't anyone like my stuff? Or why? And it's like a broken record, and your mind will answer that question. So a better question is, how can I be more confident? Okay, cool. All right, there's stacks to get through. I'm going to keep going through these. All right, limiting beliefs. So this came out in an email to my email list today, I think. And I think, Angelique, you saw this. This is such a brilliant picture to sum up limiting beliefs. I know last week we had that. Oh, no, the week before we had that picture of the donkey in the air. This time we've got a horse, and you'll notice it's tied to this light blue flimsy chair. So if I ask you, do you think that this horse, if it wanted to, could just walk away and, you know, basically get on with its day? Absolutely it could. But why doesn't it? It doesn't because it's been trained. It has experienced enough times of being tethered to something, and maybe when it was a smaller horse, it would try to pull away, and then at some point, a limiting belief dropped into its mind, and it said, okay, well, I can't pull away from things when I'm tethered to it. So it carries that limiting belief even in this situation. So this is an opportunity to think for yourself what any of your limiting beliefs might be about yourself and your own confidence. All right. Okay. So self-fulfilling beliefs. This guy, Mahatma Gandhi, I think everyone knows this dude. I think he was an extremely powerful person, but he didn't have to do much. I mean, his whole thing was, you know, non-violence, non-aggression, and all of his power came from inside, from his beliefs. So this is an incredible quote. Man often becomes what he believes himself to be. If I keep on saying to myself that I cannot do a certain thing, it is possible that I may end by really becoming incapable of doing it. On the contrary, if I have the belief that I can do it, I shall surely acquire the capacity to do it even if I may not have it in the beginning. All right, so it's a pretty long quote, but it really sums up why your beliefs are so powerful and how they are self-fulfilling. So when it comes to confidence, my belief is if someone is really confident, they will have success. If they, if they have a couple of other parameters in place, but they're doing their work and they're showing it and they're doing all this sort of stuff, they have a way higher likelihood of becoming successful in their creative practice than someone who doesn't believe in their work and they don't believe in themselves and they're not confident at all. So confidence is, I think it's like a really big make or break kind of characteristic, and it's important to cultivate it, which I will get into later. All right. So this is how it goes. If you think you're a loser, you'll feel like a loser, you'll act like a loser, and you'll be a loser. If you think you are a fearless artist, if you really believe that, you will feel like a fearless artist, you'll act like a fearless artist, and you'll be a fearless artist. So this goes for something that I'm going to talk about later, which is the feeling of not being good enough. So if that's your thought, if that's your predominant thought, I think I'm not good enough, therefore I will feel like I'm not good enough, therefore I will act like I'm not good enough, so I won't do things and I won't share my artwork, and in the end I won't be good enough. But if you flip that around and just decide, I have value, I am good enough at this, and I will continue to pursue it and I'll get better and I will make it. If that's what the belief is, then that will also become a self-fulfilling belief. All right, so here we go into a few of the examples that I got from people this week. I want to thank you all again for sending your questions through. If you didn't send them through this week, please take like the 5 minutes it takes to send your questions through next week, because this week it was awesome. Getting the responses was great. And this one here, this is the absolute #1 thing that continued to come up, I think, in every single response that I got. This was the thing, the feeling or the inner critic or the belief or the concept that is holding everyone back. Everyone on this call mentioned this, that they feel that they're just not good enough. Okay, so there are a few other things that people said along these lines. So let me know if any of these sound familiar to you. There are already talented people doing this. I'm not original enough. My work is not good enough and it's not going to get any better. It'll always be like this. I need more time. I need more experience. Another thing that came up a lot was comparison. This is also a feeling of not being good enough, right? You're comparing yourself to someone else and you're feeling like you're on the downward side of that. So I have friends that are already successful doing it. I'm afraid of rejection. There was a lot of comments about the thing I call the imposter syndrome. This is basically when you feel like a total fake. You feel like a fake and a phony, whether, you didn't study art and so you feel like you're not good enough and you shouldn't, be painting, or you shouldn't be taking photos because you didn't learn in some professional establishment, and that you're not a real artist because of it and you don't feel good enough. So these are, this is for everyone that's on this call. I want you to know that this feeling is so common. Everyone feels this from time to time. You're not alone. This is so common. And so I want to move on to addressing this for a little bit. Okay. So first of all, says who and compared to who. So what's important here is the value judgment that I mentioned earlier, that generally the person who is saying that we're not good enough or that you're not good enough is you, right? So very rarely is it someone else. Sometimes someone will creep out of the woodwork and, say something or be critical of you. But generally, we have all stopped ourselves before we've even begun. And it's really tragic. It's really sad. And it's also really simple. So not being good enough really becomes a decision. And I'll talk more about this a little bit later as well. But it's a decision about you evaluating yourself and being comfortable with yourself and accepting yourself and saying, right now, as I am good enough to continue pursuing this. I am as good as I am right now, and I will continue to do this because I know that I will get better. So compared to who, that's another part of it. Comparison works in two ways. When you compare yourself to someone, one person in that situation may look at that other person and say, they are so great, I will never be that good, I'm going to give up. Whilst another person will look at that person who's great and they'll say, that person is so inspiring and exciting, and I want to be like that. And I'm going to be like that because I know I'm good enough. I know that I can do this, and I'm going to pursue that. So when you're comparing yourself to someone, whether you feel bad about it or good about it, it's telling you, it is very good information. It's telling you that is the thing that I would like to do. It's what you say after that sentence that changes it. So that's the thing I would like to do. Some would say, but I know I can't do that. I'm not good enough. And another person would say, and I'm going to go home and practice now. Okay, static versus growth. So this is two types of mindsets. There's a static mindset versus a growth mindset. Static mindset, the common phrase used is, I'm not like that, or I just don't do that, or that's just not my thing. So, you know, generally the thing is, you know, people say this about old people, that they're kind of stuck in their ways and they have this static mindset. The other mindset is the growth mindset, which I believe actually every artist has when it comes back to the confidence loop. That's what cultivates a growth mindset. It is the deep knowledge, experiential knowledge, that everything is learnable if you spend time and some effort on it. You know that you can learn things, right? So whatever your craft is, you know that when you began, you were lame at it. And as you practice, you got better at it. So this is a growth mindset. So when it comes to saying, I'm not good enough, you can finish that sentence by saying, I'm not good enough today, but I know that I can grow. I know that I can work on this, and I'm going to do a daily practice, and I'm going to set up a plan, and I'm going to be consistent in working towards this, because I know that when I do, I will get better at this. Okay, and another part is, if you're working on it, then you are doing it. So if someone says, I'm not good enough, if you are working on your project, then you are good enough. If you're doing it, you're good enough to be doing it, right? You may not be at the level you want to be at just yet, but you're good enough to do it at this level. And as you do it more, you'll get better. This is a great line. Every master was once a novice, or every master was once a disaster. Every master was once a disaster. Even Mozart, a lot of people say that a lot of the stuff that he wrote in, you know, even though he was like, you know, 2 years old, no, he wasn't. But in his early, you know, career of writing music, a lot of people said it was rubbish. And so every master was once a disaster. Let go of outcomes. This is another benefit of doing a daily practice. It allows you to let go of outcomes. So when you're saying, I'm not good enough, you're saying, in this moment, I'm doing this thing, and this thing is not good enough, and therefore I am not good enough. So you need to detach from your outcomes. And this next thing is something that I use often, and I share this with many of the people I do coaching with on a regular basis. High intention, low attachment. So when it comes back to I'm not good enough, you just need to put a comma in and then just say yet. But it's really important to have a high intention. It is important to have high standards. It is important to want to be better, to know that you can be better, and to, you know, kind of have that in your mind, like, I want to be this good. I'm not there yet, but I want to be this good. So you have a high intention, and that's what you aim for. But along the way, you maintain low attachment. So if you do one piece of work and it's lame, it's really crap, you don't throw in the towel. You just say, okay, that one didn't turn out, but tomorrow I'm going to do another one. So it's about having this high intention and maintaining low attachment. Okie dokie. All right, so the next one comes under the banner of what others think. Here are a couple of great quotes. So what people in this world think of you is really none of your business. Martha Graham. You wouldn't worry so much about what others think of you if you realized how seldom they do. So this is something that I've recognized walking down the street. I'm walking down the street, I'm looking at other people and I'm thinking, I wonder what they're thinking. But what I realized after a little while was everyone is too busy thinking, I wonder what they're thinking, to actually be thinking about you. So when you know that, you can actually really let go when you're walking down the street and you think maybe someone's judging you, or even if someone's looking at your creative work or whatever, they're usually in their own process. They're in their own head and they're thinking about how it relates to them. They don't really care about you. I'm sorry to say. I know they do, but that criticism that we automatically expect is coming towards us very, very, very rarely actually is. So there's a little example I want to give for you here. Actually, I'll just move back from that. Okay, so here's a little thought experiment for you to do. So I want you in the worksheet to write down in your lifetime how many positive interactions you have had with people. So this could be, positive interactions at work, on the train, anywhere, absolutely anywhere. So write down that number. I'm guessing that number's around like 10,000. It's probably more. It's probably 50,000. Now I want you to write down the number of instances where someone has said something to you that is really critical and it's really, really hurt you. Like it really did some damage. Like it wasn't just something that you went, oh, I'll get over that. Like it affected you for a couple of hours or maybe a couple of days or maybe your entire life. So just write down the number of how many times you had someone say something really brutal to you that really hurt. So as you do that, please, I would love to see these numbers in the chat box, because this is something that I've done with a couple of people. I'd be really curious to see what your numbers are. But what this little exercise does is it puts into perspective how toothless this idea that we have to worry about what other people think of us, because it's so rare that it actually impacts us. So when you know that people on the whole, they're not that critical, and what it does is those few people who have said something to you, it makes them look weird. It makes them look like the wacko odd bunch, who just feel like they need to come out and say something really mean to someone. So it actually, you can almost just scratch those people off your list, because they're obviously a little bit wacko if they feel like they need to go out of their way to attack you or something. All right, cool. So I'm just checking out the chat box here. I would love to see those numbers come through. There's some great stuff on here. The great question from Aiden about the line between confidence and arrogance, and I am definitely going to get to that question because that is really important. All right, love to see those numbers come into this chat box. But yeah, and thanks to Bernadette also for sharing here about I'm above the opinions, good or bad, others may hold of me. Love that one. All right, cool. So I'm going to keep going. Okay, so this is what it really comes down to with this thing of worrying about what other people think. Whose opinion matters in the end? So in the end, the opinion of only one person you know really matters. You only have to answer to one person. You have to live with that person, and you need to make them proud. So make them proud by following your passion and your heart, and do the thing you want to do no matter what other people are going to think and say and do, because they're not the people that you have to explain things to at the end of your life. In your last, weeks of being alive on this planet, it's going to be the last thing you want to do is go out and explain to everyone, why you did what you did, and that you hope you made everyone else proud. You're going to want to be able to sit there and say, you know what, I lived my life the way that I wanted to, in an authentic way, in full integrity to who I am. And that's the person that matters the most. So this great quote, I do not care so much what I am to others as I care what I am to myself. So in all of this stuff, if you're going to convince someone else that you're cool or that you're great, the first person you have to convince is yourself. And so that's going to be the same thing for confidence. If you want to, exude confidence, the first person you're going to have to convince is yourself. Okie dokie. Okay, fear of failure. So this came up also quite a bit in, how people will feel if they don't achieve their goals. And this was actually quite powerful reading the responses on this. And what I noticed is a real pattern that there's a fear of failure. A number of you are in a position where you're in a job that you don't really enjoy, and there's this knowing, there's a deep knowing in you that you're not living authentically to the story of who you are and who you want to be and what you want to achieve in your life. But there's just something holding you back. There's fear of the unknown, and there's a fear of failure. So I want to just cover this really quickly. So a couple of other really great quotes. An essential aspect of creativity is not being afraid to fail. You'll always miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Defeat is not the worst of failures. Not to have tried is the true failure. And that's the one that resonates the most with me, that, if someone wants to have a photography business, or if they want to paint and they want to exhibit, the thing at the end of their life, is they're going to regret not doing it. And this is one of the things that is cited by people, elderly people, is that they regret things they didn't do, not things that they did do. So this resonates really strongly with me, to not try to live out your potential. That is the larger failure beyond just, not achieving your goal or whatever. Yeah. All right. So here's a couple of ways of reframing failure so that you feel more comfortable engaging with the idea of failure. I see failure as an awesome thing. Failure is one of the best teachers. It gives you so much information, and it comes back again to what you focus on. So sometimes if someone fails, they might say, I'm a failure. I suck at this. I knew I couldn't do it. But if you reframe that and say, okay, that didn't go to plan. What happened? What did I learn? How could I do it better next time? What did I learn about myself? What did I learn about, these other people, or, my community, whatever it is. So what I want you to do in the future, anytime the concept of failure comes up, I want you to embrace it, to start loving the concept of failure, and replace it with the word learn. So just think, instead of fail, just think the word learn. Okay, so I suggest everyone go for their dreams, fail gloriously with abandon and grace. I suggest that everyone on this call should go for it, and they should go down swinging, else they'll be a slave entirely. They will be a slave the rest of their lives. So whatever it is, whatever situation you're in at the moment, and you wish you could just get out of it and change it and do something, my advice is absolutely go for it. There's a great saying, which is leap and the net will appear. So it comes back again to the commitment, confidence thing. The commitment must be there first, then the confidence will come to take the action, and then you take the action. All right, cool. Okay, self-concept. So who you are, what you're worth, what you're capable of, what you deserve, and who you're allowed to be, how much love you deserve, how much success you are allowed, is all your decision. You get to decide how worthy you are of all those things. So we all come into this world with the same amount of value. No one's born with less worth than another human being. Every human being deserves love, respect, all of these basic human rights. Everyone deserves that. So there's no arbitrary selection of who is worth more than another. We don't come into the world and have stamped into our mind that we're worth a level 4 in love, 4 out of 10, that we're worth 4 in respect and value. And others are not stamped with a higher number than you. So the thing is, you allocate the numbers to yourself and to others. That's the real power of understanding this illusion, that you allocate the numbers to yourself and to others. You get to decide. You get to decide if you're worthy. You get to decide if you're good enough. You get to decide if you've got the talent. You get to decide if you've got the commitment. Whatever it is, you get to decide that, and that becomes the self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay. All right, so choice. So we can't control all of the events in our lives, but we can control a couple of things. So we can choose what to focus on. So this comes back to what I was talking about before, whether you focus on the kind of negative, sucky things that happen in a situation, or you try and glean as much good stuff out of that situation. So what you focus on, and then what meaning you attach to that situation. So you can attach to it, if you have a string of bad relationships, you can focus on the fact that the relationships are bad, and then the meaning you can attach to that is all relationships suck, and I always get hurt by the opposite sex. So I always get hurt by men, or I always get hurt by women. Or you can say, okay, that didn't work out. What was good about that relationship? Let's celebrate the things that were good about that relationship. And what does this mean potentially about me? What can I learn? Do I need to change? Is it the other person? And you can attach new meaning to any situation. And then the next part is choosing what to do. What's your next course of action? So those 3 decisions really control our lives in most situations, and how we relate to ourselves. That's the most important thing. All right. Okay. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips on how to start changing some of this stuff for yourself. And then I'm going to answer some questions, and then we'll wrap this up. So affirmations. Some people think these are sucky and they're weird, but they're absolutely incredible. So the example earlier where we did a visualization of, if you were, feeling proud, how does that make you feel? If you're feeling confident, if you're feeling loved. Your mind is absolutely so powerful over your physiology and putting you into a new frame of mind and a new set of references. So affirmations, I think, are a really very handy tool. So this week, what I want you to do is I want you to spend 1 minute saying each one of these phrases to yourself. So you start off saying this, you can say it out loud or you can say it in your head. The best is to stand in front of a mirror and say this, look yourself in the eye and say this. So you go through and you say, I like myself. I like myself. I like myself. I forgive myself. So with this one, you think about anything where you're feeling any past guilt, shame, regret for decisions you made or whatever, and it's time to let those go. So you forgive yourself and you let those things go, and you start to like yourself a bit more. I accept myself. So this is saying, I accept myself. I accept myself for who I am right now in this moment. I accept that I am like this, warts and all, with all my faults, whatever it is, that's just who I am, and I accept that. Next one is I love myself. So this is really giving yourself empathy, just saying, I love myself, I'm worthy, I'm a good person. And then the last one is I trust myself, which comes back to the confidence idea of self-trust. So I trust myself. So you do each one of those for a minute. So that'll take you 5 minutes. So doing that as a daily practice, which I'll get into. Another exercise is an evening journal where I want to change the default habit pattern of your mind. Instead of focusing on negative stuff, I want to train you to look for positive experiences of the day and feel into gratitude. So write down one negative experience of the day, something that, kind of was annoying. And then I want you to reframe that one experience and ask, what did I learn? So either what did I learn about the situation? What did I learn about myself? How could I have done it differently? So anytime there is a quote unquote fail or a negative experience, I want you to get into the habit of learning from that experience. And then write down 5 positive experiences of the day. And you just dwell on that before you drift off into some beautiful slumberland. Okay, learning to trust. So this is somewhat about learning to trust others, but it's also about learning to trust yourself and your own confidence. This is a really simple exercise. All you do is when you're in the street or in the shop, wherever you are, I want you to make eye contact with someone, say hi and smile. That's all you need to do. So you don't have to stare them down like a weirdo. You just acknowledge them, you say hi, you smile, and you just carry on. That's all it is. But this is a really interesting exercise that I've done myself, and I've got lots of other people to do. And a couple of really interesting things happen. So here I've got do it, to 3 strangers each day this week. If for some reason you don't see three strangers, just keep it in your mind that when you're in public with around other people to do this exercise, just all you need to do is say hi and smile. It's easy. Okay, so this is what I would love your daily practice card to look like this week. If for some reason you don't believe you have time to do all of this, then you can change the amount of your daily practice to make it smaller. The affirmations, maybe you can do all of them just in 1 minute, whatever it is. But this is what I definitely recommend. So your creative daily practice of drawing, affirmations for 5 minutes, keeping your positivity journal, and saying hi and smiling to 3 people. All right, final tips about your mind. Never believe a thought that does not empower you. Your mind comes up with all kinds of rubbish. You do not have to believe it. So do not believe a thought that does not empower you. You must take responsibility for your decisions. So this is the decisions and the meaning that you put on different situations. So you need to take responsibility for how you interpret situations and the meaning you're putting onto it and how they make you feel. No thought lives in your head rent-free. This is one of my favorite ones. If you're having a negative thought passing through your mind, you can evict it because you're the boss. It's your house. It's your head. So no thought lives in your head rent-free. So you can evict it anytime. And once again, I really want to reinforce this. High intention, low attachment. So that, if you're not feeling like you're good enough or whatever, come back to this high intention of the goal that you've set for yourself and keep low attachment to any of the outcomes or criticism that come your way. Any questions? All right. So I'm going to jump back into here and answer some questions. Hang on, I'm gonna one momento. Whoa, flicking around like crazy here. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm back here. How's it going? All right, cool. So I'm going to answer some questions for you. Let me see. So there was a really great question from Aiden earlier about the difference between confidence and arrogance. This is a really great question. And I think that many artists don't like the idea of confidence, and they don't like the idea of confident people, and because they feel like it's arrogant. And most artists are awesome, beautiful human beings who are really humble and want to get along with people and treat people equally and fairly and all that stuff. So the difference between confidence and arrogance is that when you are confident, it's about self-trust. It's about treating yourself with respect and love and equality, and basically putting yourself up to a level where you say, okay, I'm actually as good as everyone else. I'm equal to everyone else. I'm not belittling myself. I'm not worse than anyone else. I'm the same as everyone else. So you're kind of up at this level. Arrogance is really quite different. The way that I see arrogance is, you will notice people that are arrogant are actually extremely insecure. That's the weird irony of people that are very arrogant. There's something they're hiding. They usually are on the offensive. They're usually attacking people because there is some type of insecurity there where they need to perpetually be proving who they are and telling you how great they are, and they're just shoring up their own self-concept and self-identity. So that's how I see those things as being different. And you will also notice someone who is genuinely confident does not have to tell you that they're confident. They don't have to go through a laundry list of, all the amazing things they've done every time they see you or whatever. They can be quiet and confident and assured and, just move through the world in that space of just saying, okay, this is who I am. I'm so comfortable with this. I'm totally comfortable with who I am. And so I'm just going to go about my business doing that. So I hope that answers that question about the difference between confidence and arrogance. All right. Let me just find the next question. Okie dokie. Oh, so Naria's had to leave. See you, Naria. Thanks for coming. Okay, where are we? Hang on, I'm just trying to find these questions. Sorry, the chat box is being crazy. Good. I answered your question. Okay, I'm just trying to find these questions. I'm not sure in numbers, but I'm going to say 10% were negative and the rest were positive, even from total strangers. Cool. That's great, Kylie. Okay, 4 brutal people and so many nice comments. I really can't give a number. So Aiden, I think that's about the same for me, I reckon. Even I actually really struggle to think of brutal comments where someone has like attacked me for no reason or whatever. And I've had many, 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 many compliments. And that's the fun of that exercise, is really putting that into perspective and going, oh, okay, why am I so afraid of, negative criticism or feedback or whatever? Because people are generally nice and people generally seem to like what I do. And so basically I'm just not going to worry about it anymore. That's kind of my deal these days. Okay. Oh, yes. Oh, Bernadette, you answered that question great in the chat box. So my take on it would be confidence comes from the self, the center. Arrogance always comes from the ego, that part of us which listens to the self-critic and acts on it. Awesome answer. Okay. All right. Cool. Well, at the moment, It doesn't look like there are any other questions. If there are any other questions, please fire away in the next minute or so. Otherwise, I might put the yeah, okay, so I'll wrap it up. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that was helpful. Remember those couple of tips and things to do this week as part of your daily practice. So doing affirmations, your journal, and saying hi to a couple of people. It really starts to shift your behavior in how you interact with other people, how good you feel about yourself, because that's really what it all comes down to, how good you feel about yourself. That's the crux of it. And honestly, this session was so hard to try and fit into 1 hour. It's now 1 hour and 10 minutes, but I had pages and pages and pages and pages of stuff that I wanted to share. In these sessions, I really can only kind of scratch the surface, and I try and give you as much practical stuff as possible so that you can apply this stuff, just so it's not all kind of just theory and dumb stuff to wade through. I want this to be as practical as possible. I hope it was helpful. I hope I answered some of your questions that you sent through this week. I'm going to send out another email tomorrow morning for the next session, which will be the fifth session of 5. I'm letting out something a cat out of the bag a little bit by saying there may be a 6th session if people want it, and if I get enough questions from people to create a 6th session, because I would actually like to cover a few things that I've had to leave out of these sessions and wrap up anything that happens in the next session where if things are kind of hanging over, because the next session is going to be, I'm going to share a bunch of tools to help you stay on track. This is something that no artist I know knows about. No one I know, apart from people that I've shown, know these tools of how to stay on track, how to be really clear, how to set up your day, how to be really productive and effective with time that you have. So people I know on this call who have time constraints, whether it's kids, jobs, and stuff like that, there's going to be some tools next week that really help you just get focused and do focused work on your creative practice. You'll be stunned at how much creative work you can get done with some of the tools that I'm going to share next week. Also going to talk a bit more about like commitment and how you commit to your practice so that you can really, do awesome stuff. So thanks again for being here. Thanks for watching. You guys totally rule. I think that's about it. I'm just going to quickly check if there are any other questions that have come through. Oh, there are some. Where's the line where telling people about a project because you're excited becomes dangerous because you're insecure subconsciously? Okay, that's an awesome question. So telling people about a project because you're excited, dangerous because you're insecure subconsciously. So if I'm getting the question right, I think what it means is you are excited about doing a project, but you're not sure whether you're going to follow through and do it or whether it's going to happen. So if that's the case, if I've understood the question correctly, what I think is that that is a good thing. Like what I got people to do last week was put up a commitment for doing their daily practice. When you make a public announcement, a public commitment that you're going to do something, it makes you way more likely to actually follow through on that thing. So hopefully that's what the question was. But like, I mean, I basically just did that in this session just now when I basically started to make a promise of something that's going to maybe happen in the future, which is the 6th session, where hopefully I can help you guys even more in that session. I basically started making that promise, and what happens now is because I've told you guys and I have a commitment to everyone that engages in this to follow through, now it's extremely likely that I'm going to do it, especially if I get feedback from people that want to do it. If I get feedback from people, then I'll definitely do it. If people say, no, don't do it, we've had enough, then I won't do it. But yeah, putting yourself on the hook for doing stuff is actually a really helpful way of getting things moving, getting things done. It's an artificial way of creating a deadline for yourself. So awesome. Thanks heaps for the questions. That's about it. So I will see you all next week. Cool. Have an awesome week. Remember that your art matters. It really, 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 really actually does matter. It really, really, really does. It really does. It really, 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 really actually does matter. Your art does matter. So go and create. Cool. Have an awesome week. See ya.